Before I get into the actual introduction of this video, I just want to say that since this is the first video I'm doing in this series, this one's pretty experimental in the sense that I'm still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't to see what to improve. Moving forward, I did do this video without a script, and while editing I realized it caused a lot of hiccups in speech. So while moving forward, I expect them to be a lot smoother, because I'm definitely going to be using the script from here on out, so that doesn't happen again. So it's pretty soft-spoken in the video, so I have to apologize in advance. That's definitely something I will try to fix for the next video and onwards. But yeah, I'm not really 100% sure on the consistency of these videos. I want to try to get at least one per week, but on that schedule, it's going to take a pretty long time, and by the time I get everything done, it's probably going to be season 3, so a lot of things will change by then, I imagine, unless Side Games doesn't change anything, which is not surprising, but I wouldn't like that. So hopefully I can crank more out to be done hopefully by the time Meg releases. So yeah, not too long, but obviously not season 3. Of course, with time comes changes, like I said, hopefully, and any changes for characters that I've already made videos on when patches drop, videos would definitely be remade for the respective versions, and will probably be main priority finish for the respective patch. But of course, we'll figure that out as time moves on, depending on what changes. But yeah, I apologize for inconveniences in this video that I mentioned before. I will definitely work on it in the future, but of course, if there's any other feedback anybody is willing to give me on the quality, structure, or literally anything, please let me know, because it would be very helpful moving forward to know what to look out for, edit, change moving forward to make this series good, informative, to just help people. So yeah, if you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like, even subscribe if you want, just show support, because any support would go a long way to see how this is being received, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. So yeah, let's get into the actual intro of the video. Welcome to the Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising Counterplay Archive, a series of videos where I will cover every single character in the game, each in a separate video, and go over how to deal with certain moves and common or even niche situations that a player may encounter while playing Rising. I am a firm believer that being able to understand every character in the game like they're your own is one of the biggest contributors to improvement, and not just Rising, but in fighting games in general. So hopefully this series can help players gain that understanding and eventually see improvement in their own gameplay. To start off this series, I will be beginning with the most recent character added to the cast, Galleon. I thought it'd be best to start off with her because she is relatively new and still very, very popular among the cast, so people are most likely running into her regardless of the mode, regardless, who you're playing. So I don't think she's too complicated on the surface, but obviously there are still a few things that may be a little knowledge checky and are good to know when fighting this character to make your life, I'd say, a lot easier. But of course, I don't know everything, so if there is someone that is more knowledgeable about this character than I am, feel free to let me know in the comment section, maybe a situation or an interaction I may have gotten incorrect. And if anybody needs any clarification on anything, also feel free to leave a comment, and I will be definitely willing to help and, make it easier to understand. But anyways, without further ado, let's get right into the video. All things are considered, her normals are pretty standard. She has pretty decent bar normals, but besides that, everything is pretty normal. Her close L, however, is 6 frames, so it is slower than most, and she doesn't have a low 2L, so it is definitely not as scary. But one thing to take note of in terms of all her normals is her 6-6H, her dash heavy normal. So this move, honestly thrown out a lot, is a pretty good combo starter for Galleon. And Galleon players like to use it a lot, despite the fact that it is extremely punishable on block. So if you see this, it is -23. So yeah, I don't know why Galleon players do it, but a lot of people get mixed up by the fact that you can change the direction of this move. One being forward right there, and then the other being back if you so please. One thing to keep in mind is that this teleport does not go behind her opponent even if she does hold forward. So regardless if she holds forward or back, she will still land in front of you, which makes it a lot easier to punish while knowing this. It being so minus leaves it open to a lot bigger punishes than most normals on block or anything on block. And minus 23 leaves the gateway for a lot of things. So I set this computer to do this on block. So, you know, you can get a standard close light punish. Galleon herself has a pretty slow close H, can still get a close H punish. But what if she goes back and, you know, doesn't land right in front of you? Well, she's minus 23. So, most characters, if not all, can run up in 6's L to get a pretty decent punish. But even better, if you have meter, a lot of characters have a fast metered option that you can throw out and will catch her regardless of where she goes, because when she reappears, she's not invincible when she pops back up, but she is invincible like in between the time where she is not on screen. So yeah, you can use an ult move like that to cover both angles. It might just be better to just do this in general because ult skills are pretty good starters, all things considered, with meter refund, not as much with damage since the damage nerfs. But yeah, you can just throw out a move like that and cover both angles. And yeah, whenever you see this move on block, she can't do anything out of this. She is stuck and will eat whatever the heck this is that you decide to throw at her. So yeah, plan your punish accordingly depending on your character, because certain characters can do different things depending on, you know, what your starters are, what your moves are. But yeah, that is basically all you need to know about her normal scissor 6's H. So yeah. Starting with her 236 series, which is her light, medium, or heavy, and also her these moves are have their own specific uses, but all of these can be spot dodged. So especially in block strings, if you are anticipating one of these moves coming out, then spot dodge will always leave you in advantage. So for example, I just set this this computer to spot dodge on every hit. So for example, if I were to do a bar medium into one of these, spot dodges and it's +2. I do this, spot dodges is +9, spot dodge +2, and spot dodge +2. So yeah, if you are anticipating this, then it is a good idea to spot dodge because it is your turn. One thing, however, that is very important to keep note of is that if you block in any H normal, you can see even though I set the computer to spot dodge, it was not able to spot dodge until after the hit of the 236. So these are true block strings. So with this, honestly, you don't have to worry about it too much. It's just something that is good to know, and something I will cover more later on with different scenarios. But yeah, just know that your spot dodge will not come out if you block one of these and this, except for the medium version, of course, which is a longer startup. So it will not be a true block string. But stuff like the H, the L, and even the what's written is a true block string. One other thing to note is that all these moves are air unblockable. So as you can see, I have the computer set to block all, but if they get by this move in the air, they cannot block. So this is something to be wary of, especially with how big this move is. And especially the full version as well, because then if I could do it correctly, she could get a full conversion off of this. So I'd say be wary of this when she has this cooldown or 50 meter, because yeah, you cannot block that in the air, and it leads to a pretty decent punish depending on the hit. Among her her 623 series, which is her like leap into the air grab, you don't have to worry about these too much. besides this move, which honestly isn't good, but it is something that people may get caught off guard by and do not know the counterplay to. So it is good to know what to do when this move comes out. So I set the computer to do 623H. So just to demonstrate, you can just spot dodge this move, and also something to note is that depending on the time you spot dodge, it varies a frame data. As you saw, it was -2, but I spot dodged a little bit earlier, and I was +7. So yeah, the earlier you spot dodge, the better for this move, and depending on how close you are, you will be able to get punished as well. You can also roll this move, which puts you closer to her, especially if you're like right in front. Then it is a lot easier to punish. Also, like when you're far away, it's probably just do the same, but obviously you won't be in as good a position unless you're like right next to her. One other thing to note is you are far away and you have a move that covers a good chunk of the screen. You can't actually hit her out of this move. It is not invul of any type, and the rock itself actually loses to like higher priority or like anything. It will trade with normal projectiles, and it will lose to anything that have a higher priority than 1. So if you have any move to just kind of hit her out of the air when she's doing this, then by all means do it, because it will net you a bigger punish than if you just spot dodge or roll from full screen. That is, of course, if you're not like right under her. And if you're right under her, actually, you can just anti-hit her, and it gets rid of the raw projectile, and she can't really do anything about this. So she is just kind of putting herself in danger. But of course, I'm covering this because not a lot of people know that you can just ignore this. You can also just walk behind her as well, and then she just she can't do anything about it. So yeah, varying options to counter this move depending on your situation. But yeah, figure out what's best for you in what situation, and punish accordingly, because this move is not good. There's a couple ways you can go about beating Galleon's grabs. Those options being mash, jump, or backdash. These all work. However, they're they both have their own risks in themselves. So let's talk about mash first. Mash is I would probably say the worst option to pick, or usually the most inconsistent option, mainly because it is more of a call out than a reaction. So I just set the computer to do auto combo 2 into auto combo 2 into grab. So I do this, like I was mashing. It's like you're mashing it for like a hard call out, but if you mess up the timing, then your thing might not come out, and then you might get grabbed instead. So like, even if I could get the mash, if you throw out your friggin' if you throw out your fastest button, which is for most characters, they're 5L in this range. I'm gonna see, I'm still like inconsistent, but like off of a counter hit 5L, what are you like getting off of this? Which is the thing that separates this from the other two options, especially since this grab has like so long recovery. Like that's a -73 on whiff. So if you're getting just a 4 or 5L, like for example, like you might be able to get like a 4L into Raging Strike. Galleon does have this, which can lead to extensions, but even that is pretty cheap, and cheap in the sense like the punish is cheap, and the cash out itself is pretty expensive to get anything. So yeah, that leads us into our other two options. The next option I'm going to cover is backdash. In this situation, backdash I feel like is still better than mash. Well, like I say, anything's better than mash in this situation, because you know, if you backdash, you're plus 37, or depending on when you backdash, obviously, but you're still going to be within the range of like plus 30. If you're plus 30, even though Galleon's slow as hell, she has enough time to run up and get a 6XL, stuff like that. So you have a lot of time, and you can set yourself up for a better punish than just a far 5L. But yeah, usually the thing that makes this, I'd say, the second best option and not the first, is because depending on the character you're playing, you know, you might not be able to get as big of a punish. And of course, some characters, you know, it depends for certain characters, because, you know, like some characters have better like far range options than others. But yeah, this is honestly I'd say a better option to do than mash out, especially with the inconsistencies of mash, and probably the reward of it too, because yeah, depending on what character you're playing, a 6XL starter is a lot better than getting a 4 or 5L into, you know, little to nothing. So yeah, that's backdash. The best option, I'd say, is jumping. So jumping is a pretty strong option here, because you know, like the other ones, you know, we're talking about, you know, far 5L like as a mash punish, 6XL for most characters as a, you know, just a punish on whiff for being this far back. But those starters, or you know, for far 5L is kind of expensive to get anything off of. And then, you know, when you get 6XL punish for most characters, it's going to be pretty scaled. So that's where jump comes in, and you have an aerial starter, which is not as scaled, and you know, a lot of characters can get pretty high damage combos off of this punish. It's also you know, doesn't suffer from the same like little inconsistencies that the mash has, which is, you know, it has to be like a hard call out, and you know, even if you do call it out, you have to, you know, be right on time, or else you're gonna get grabbed. Well, it kind of functions the same as backdash in the sense that it's a lot less inconsistent than mash. So yeah, for example, like if I were to just do this like it was before, you jump over, you get for Galleon at least, you know, a JU punish, and into an auto combo into whatever you want. So yeah, I'd say this option is probably the strongest option you have against her grab. Obviously there are going to be some characters that have a really floaty jump, like for example like Fairy or Matera and stuff like that. So you might not be able to, well, I still think you should be able to come down and punish despite having an extremely floaty jump with how minus she is. If you're too worried about that and you play like a floaty character like that, then you can always rely on backdash, because you know, those characters with floaty jumps usually have, you know, long normals in order to, you know, get a pretty decent punish. Fairy, you can probably 4-5H. Matera, you can probably just get Galleon away from you. That's like good enough. But yeah, when it comes to like dealing with grab, obviously grab's not always going to come into the same spot. You know, smart Galleon players would mix it up to make it harder to react to, but those are probably your best options to go about it. If there's anything else, I don't know if there's any other options to beat this move. Probably like very character specific. So like if you see the animation go out, you might be able to like reversal super like that. Like other characters, you just, depending on how big your DP is, and you can, you know, reversal DP if you see it. But to be safe, if you want to do that, that's probably like easier to do. But yeah, you know, choose the option that's best for your character. Again, I'd probably discourage mashing, because inconsistency issues, consistency issues, not inconsistency issues, consistency issues, and like low reward off of being correct. So yeah, choose what's best for you. Obviously, I didn't really talk about reacting to this move because it's really, I don't think there's a spot where people like to use it. It's just more of figuring out your opponent and stuff like that. Reacting to it is, even though it is 21 frames, well, 21 as you see right there, it's honestly 21 frames is not easy to react to, especially not online. So there are certain like cues to look out for, but it's not like I said, it's not easy to react to. So like obviously you can listen for the sound cue. You hear the distinct sound that plays when it's about to come off. One thing in particular to look out for, like when you have 2-2 on you, because the only way she can get a follow-up is if she spends either a meter or her cooldown. So those also have distinct visual cues that you can look out for, being her turning gold, or the whole screen turning blue actually. But yeah, that's really all you need to know about like dealing with her grab. It's pretty straightforward, but you know, it will take some time to get used to trying to react to, and you know, punishing accordingly. Now moving on to the 2-2 series, which is this move that puts a reticle on you, and she does 5U, the rock will drop, and then it also activates on command grabs, which makes her command grabs so scary because of this move, which leads into follow-ups and whatnot. But yeah, the reason why I left this for last is that it has a lot more like situational use than the other moves. So one of the most common ones being if she has you right here, and she's kind of like threatening like her normals from this distance, of course. So this is a pretty common situation you'll see, because her normals are pretty decent. She can play this range. It's kind of scary, all things considered, but of course there are counterplay to, you know, certain options that she can do in this situation. So if you remember from earlier, like I mentioned, you can spot dodge these moves, and it is also the same for her 5U. And if you see the frame data off of spot dodging a 5U, or Galleon is -17, which is a pretty big window. So the same thing applies when she has this thing on you, and if you spot dodge this, she is -17, and this frame data varies depending on the normal that it is canceled off of, but the same rule applies from the other, from the other as in the stuff I was talking about earlier, that you can spot dodge everything except for her close, or not her close, but her heavy normals, which being her close and her far H. But yeah, if you see your opponent like to reset into this move a lot, this is a very solid option to show, because with how minus she is, you can get a pretty decent punish. But of course, counterplay has its own counterplay. So if you spot dodge this, and there is no follow-up, you put yourself in a pretty dangerous situation, make yourself -23, and even if she does cancel into something that's not this, for example, another one of these, she is +13, which is perfect frame data for her to do 4-5H, and then 4-5H is probably her best counter hit starter. So yeah, that's just something to be wary of. So yeah, do keep in mind, of course, that ball dodging is pretty good off of this, but follow-up isn't guaranteed every time. So this is just a countermeasure. don't do it every single time, because a good player will catch on to your habits and then start resetting with one of these and then kill you for it. So yeah, keep that in mind. But of course, if they are abusing this move, then or this in this particular situation, then yeah, do show this option. And also, like I mentioned, her 4-5H and her close H, her H normals, do make this a true block string, so you can't spell dodge afterwards. There's also something to keep in mind, that if you are in this situation and you try to spot dodge, you have to stand up. You have to stand up. You see, if I sit down, I try to do back and block to do spot dodge, it doesn't work. So if you try to spot dodge while an H normal is happening and you force yourself to stand up, this 5U is a low, so you will get caught and it will lead into a full combo. So this is where I mentioned before, recognizing which move you get hit by or which move you're blocking is very important, because you do not want to try to spot dodge this move, stand up and get hit low, and then she gets a full combo. So yeah, I do say just keep that in mind, that if you do block these normals, just sit down and hold it, because you can't do anything in this situation. Last thing I'm going to cover is her supers. Her supers are unique in the sense that they are the only command grab supers in the game that can be jumped on Super Flash. So this is pretty important when kind of, you know, structuring your pressure, because it isn't entirely a guess anymore. It's, you know, can you structure your pressure to be safe to this move? So one thing I definitely recommend is, like, if you see that your opponent, the Galleon player, has 100 meter and likes to reversal super and whatnot, you know, you can try to structure your pressure with close normals like this, so you can kind of, you know, wait and see what they're gonna do. Because if you end up throwing like a high recovery move, like in your stagger pressure, for example, you do like this into this, there's like a gap right there, and then within that gap it can DP, or this DP in this situation being reversal super, so you will get caught by it. So maybe like structuring it with like pretty tight close lights, close L, depending on what your character has, obviously, is a good idea, because then on reaction you should be able to jump and avoid this command grab super. So avoiding it is pretty simple. On that note, like I said, you just jump it pretty much. So I just set the computer to do the super on block. So if I just do it like this, neutral, and I just jump right over it, and you're pretty plus. So yeah, most characters can get a pretty good punish off of this. Landing normal punish is a pretty high damage starter. So for example, Galleon can probably just JU into something like this, and then that's a pretty good chunk of damage, like 30%. So yeah, being able to like structure your pressure like this is pretty important when dealing with these command grabs, because then, you know, it's not as big of a problem because it's reactable, and with it being reactable means you know, easier to punish and a lot less risky to throw your pressure on it. So if you weren't aware, Galleon actually has two supers, one being her command grab super and one being the ball that she throws out, which is pretty much a worse version of Fairy SBA. Why I say this move is like just worse Fairy SBA, it's pretty obvious, honestly. This move doesn't travel the angle Fairy SBA does, which makes it a lot less, a lot easier to get around, and it also, you know, funny enough, doesn't actually even go full screen. So yeah, you can just like not be in range and, you know, not deal with it. In this situation, you know, they'll probably follow behind it, you back up, it just doesn't even reach. So yeah. Even worse actually is this move's startup. So the startup is so big that there's no way to jail like this move on block with any move. So yeah, I set the computer to do 5H into super. 5H is one of her highest block stun moves. So like even this isn't enough to force me to block this. I can just roll, and I roll, I am plus 24, which is a big number. That's not a place where Galleon wants to be. So this move is extremely fake. There's a lot of like ways to get around it, roll being one of them, and that was just showing that move on block. If they just throw it out randomly mid-screen, this can be dodged in the exact same way. You just roll through it, and even then it has so much recovery that when I walk forward and dodge, I'm still only -1, which is extremely safe. So yeah, this move is really not too scary if you know what you're doing against it. This move, depending on the position and like what your character has, can also be jumped. So depending on like what you're doing, obviously that miss, but depending on the character that you play, you can probably get a pretty decent punish, because it takes like 50 frames, which is almost a second, for Galleon to be even able to act out of this. Yeah, if you have decent air options, jumping is also a pretty good option. But pick what you want based off positioning, because if you're right in front of her face, rolling it in a close H is probably a better option than taking the risks and jumping, because they can still catch you while you're in the air. It's not air unblockable, but it can still force you to block, and then she can get set up. So yeah, that is something to keep in mind. Also, if you happen to play a character with an invincible like full screen option, or an option that makes you invincible on hit that goes full screen without having to actually travel the screen, then you can just not interact with it as well. So for example, same thing as before, if I pick that, you just ult spear, you just don't have to deal with it at all. But yeah, if your character has an option like one of these, then this is a very, very good option to show against Galleon players that just like throwing this move out. And I doubt they'll ever use this move again after they see how easily it can be countered. That is all I had to cover concerning Galleon. I hope this was helpful. I do encourage that if you're not sure about certain things yourself, to go into training mode and try them out yourself. Like set the computer to do certain actions, and execute some of the counterplay I mentioned, just to get a feel for it yourself, because it is one thing to see it and a completely other thing to actually do it. So getting that muscle memory down will certainly help. Go into training mode, test out your character specific punishes. That's definitely one thing to kind of get a feel for yourself. I can't go over every single punish for every single move, so it is up to you to figure out what is the most optimal way to punish specific options for your own character. For example, on like 6H, figure out what is your biggest starter off of that, and stuff like that, because it's going to be different from character to character depending on who you're playing. Do they have a strong ult skill start or stuff like that. But yeah, besides that, that was the Galleon counterplay video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this was helpful at all. I do plan on making one for every single character in the game, so look forward to that. I don't have a set character to do next, so if you guys have any suggestions on what to do next, please let me know. If there's anything that's unclear or anything else more specific that you want to know, feel free to leave a comment or even message me privately on Discord. I am very open to help anybody who wants to improve at this game, or any specific character advice. But yeah, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed or you found this helpful. Subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want if you want to know when the next one's coming out, because hopefully I can help people improve their game knowledge for this game and help you guys become better players. So yeah, that's all from me, and I hope to see you guys soon.